Well, good morning, everyone. I'm David Toll. I'm the publisher of Private Equity Career News. I'm very happy this morning to have with me Rendel Solomon. He's managing director at Muller Monroe Asset Management in Chicago. Rendell had some big news recently. He's going to be stepping down from the firm. And so this morning, I wanted to ask him about that decision and what he plans to do next. Rendell, thanks for joining us on the program.
Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Give us a quick snapshot of the firm.
Absolutely. Muller Monroe is a $1.2 billion private equity fund of funds firm based in Chicago, founded in 1999, that focuses exclusively on small, emerging, and diverse firms. And so we manage capital on behalf of large public pension plan institutions.
Many of my readers are students.
Mhm.
Others are young in their or early in their profession, and they'd really love to break into private equity. Eventually, they want to make partner at a firm. That's their big dream. And now, having achieved that for yourself, you're walking away. What's motivating you to leave Muller and Monroe?
I will start off with a quote from Darren Walker of Ford Foundation, who recently wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. And in this op-ed, he was talking about privilege. And he has a quote that says, "If we, the beneficiaries of a system that perpetuates inequality, are seeking to reform this system, then we have to give up something." Darren Walker is an African-American leader of a foundation in New York. And as I read that quote, it was around the time I was making this formal decision, which was earlier this summer, late spring, to make a shift for leaving private equity. And as I saw as we entered deeper into the coronavirus pandemic, as we see the vitriol being spewed in politics, as we see police killings, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, they weren't all police killings, but as we see what we consider unjust killings of African Americans, as we see uprisings and protests to fight against systemic injustice and racism, I said to myself, man, I really want to do more. I don't want to sit on Zoom meetings talking about private equity anymore. I didn't feel that was doing enough to address these issues. And while I know the importance and significance of capital, David, we won't have the full discussion here. We'd love to circle back with you, whether on the record or off the record. But essentially, I'm struggling with the tenets of capitalism in its current form. I believe capitalism needs a fundamental shift in how we conduct business. And when shareholder rights and shareholder value is the first, second, third, and oftentimes only measure of success, unfortunately, these issues around inclusion and equity get left to the side. So in short, I believe in many ways capitalism breeds inequity. And so until we address the capitalism equation, it doesn't mean we move to a socialist system. I'm no historian or economist, so I'm not even sure I fully understand what that would look like. But there have been studies. I know the Harvard Business Review has done one about something called stakeholder capitalism. How do we fully incorporate all individuals and citizens and the environment and people in the equation for business success? And until that happens, unfortunately, we'll continue to end up in this divide. So me taking time away is specifically to reflect, reassess, and reimagine what's possible. I need time to give my brain some space to read, review, have conversations with individuals like yourself, listen to your readers, read more articles, read more books, just to better understand what is possible as it relates to addressing these issues.
Apart from your career in private equity, you've also started some organizations and somehow in your spare time, One Stock, One Future, the League of Superwomen. Tell us how you will be spending your time over the next, say, year or so, and what you're planning to do.
But I started One Stock, One Future back in 2016 as an effort to create ownership amongst young people, especially from underrepresented groups. And I wanted to give them a sense of hope, inspiration, empowerment, and opportunity through this stock ownership. And the idea for One Stock came about after experience with my niece, where I decided to buy her shares of stock in Nike, Apple, Disney. And that's not an endorsement for those three companies, just in case the SEC is reading or watching. But they were brands that I knew that this 8-year-old child would recognize. And we had a phenomenal experience. I walked her into each store to show her what that meant. I told her she owned that store. And the key is that when she went into a Starbucks, because she had asked for some Starbucks stock after that, she ended up telling her mother, my sister, Mommy, you know, I own this place a little bit. And that's when the idea hit me that I've gotten this 8-year-old child to understand the concept of stock ownership and ownership in general just by giving her a share of stock without some long, fancy course talking about price earning ratios and volatility. She didn't need that at 8 years old. All she needed to know is that that Apple logo, that Nike logo, or that Disney logo was now somehow part of her, that she owned a piece of those companies. And then that grew to a vision of creating this organization to turn 1 million youth into public company shareholders. And then I did a TED talk about this, a TEDx Chicago to be exact, called Sharecropper to Shareholder. And in that TEDx, I tell more about this story. So I'd love to encourage your readers to visit sharecroppertoshareholder.com to learn more about that journey to turn 1 million youth into public company shareholders via stock ownership. And with League of Superwomen, continuing in this theme of, again, I'm working in private equity. I'm recognizing that those who grew up low income from the communities where I was raised, I'm first generation college, oldest of 3, and my late mother, who was able to get 3 kids through school, through college, was so improbable. And while, yes, it was possible that she was able to do that through her hard work and determination and perseverance, it's still not probable, David. And so I've been trying over the years to figure out a way to increase the probability of success for young people who come from the communities like where I was raised. So One Stock, One Future was one of those efforts. League of Superwomen is an effort to bring the concepts and ideas of entrepreneurship and capital deployment to support women who were growing their businesses. We've seen statistics that say women are actually one of the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in our country. The problem is they also are able to raise the least amount of capital, and their companies don't generate as much revenue overall. They tend to raise smaller companies or sole proprietorships. And part of that is this idea of, what are the industries that you might pursue where you can build a scalable business? And so one of my really good friends, Christia Donaldson, who runs a company, a healthcare, a beauty care business called Thank God It's Natural, TGIN. I watched her success from the very beginning. And when you see an entrepreneur build a company and build it organically, and they grow to be $1 million business, and this woman who you recall selling her wares and her products at street festivals here in Chicago to now being in Target and Walmart and Ulta, that is fascinating. And I'm still fascinated by entrepreneurship. So I wanted to showcase individuals like her who had built these businesses. And so I text 5 women I knew who had either built or were building these growing scalable businesses. And I said, would you guys be willing to be on a panel? And I call you guys League of Superwomen and you tell your story about entrepreneurship. And they all supported it. And it was phenomenal.
That's awesome. And you have a new organization as well, financialengagement.com. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, that one is new. It's not even fully launched. I'm actually hosting the launch on Saturday, November 28th. And the idea of financial engagement is to bring principles of personal financial management to those who, for whatever reason, been disconnected from practicing the principles. And in particular, I'm actually moving to a different segment. So One Stock, One Future was youth. League of Superwomen is more entrepreneurship focused on women. Financial engagement is broader, but it's still professionals who make decent money, right? They make enough money to cover the bills, but they haven't really dived into the tenets of personal financial management and addressing credit and thinking about building wealth. And so now I've developed a course. I'm finalizing putting the content together. And the goal will be to really get people more engaged with their finances so that they're not afraid of it. They're taking it step by step and recognizing we've all been on a journey to better ourselves financially.